As a recruiter, I always ask at the end of our conversation if there's anything I can answer.
I always ask people if there are questions that they have for me.
I expect questions at the end. If somebody tells me they don't have questions, I get very suspicious about how much they actually know about what we're talking about.
In our interview process, I want to make sure that we are finding somebody that is inquisitive, somebody who wants to learn more about our organization, and someone who's going to take the time to ask questions in an interview.
It's as important as preparing for the interview is preparing the questions.
Come in, loaded for bear, if you will, with questions that you need to have answered because this is your next step in your life too.
I can understand how a lot of questions could be answered. So be prepared for not having questions. What's your envelope that you pull out of your jacket that's like emergency questions?
Have 3 really solid questions that don't sound cliche, that don't sound canned, but that are relevant to that business. And a lot of it, I think, should be centered around culture, opportunities, professional growth.
One good question is like, well, tell me a little bit about you. How did you get here? Like, turn the table, talk to the interviewer.
I always turn the table around because you want to show interest in what's happening.
One of my vice presidents told me once, you can always find someone's level of interest in the types of questions that they ask you at the end of their interview.
The greatest hands down question I've ever received in an interview. He looked me in the eye at the end of the interview and said, after all that we've discussed in my resume and my cover letter, and after meeting me in person, is there anything that I've done that would lead you to the conclusion that I should not get this position? And if so, please tell me what those things are. Phenomenal question. Because now he's asking me for questions. He's going to get immediate response from me. He's going to know where he stands. And he was hired on the spot. No questions asked because that's such a good question. If somebody ever asked me that again, it would be another immediate hire.
If people don't ask a lot of questions or any questions at all at the end of an interview, we generally won't move forward with them as a rule of thumb.
So I expect questions, and I do read into some of the questions that they ask.
When you're asking the question, if you say something like, oh, I know Honeywell does this, this, and this, tell me a little bit more, that shows me you did your homework. And I'm more likely to keep the conversation going.
Those kind of things often tell me that they've done their research, they've done their homework, they want to know questions and answers because this is their future too.